So before we get started, I just want to mention that anything with a 20 to 20, this is 24, but anything that's anywhere between 20 and 24 gauge wire is fine. So typically just standard wire you might have in your classroom. Before we get started, I would make note of your chassis. You can see by this chassis that it's longer this way to kind of determine where you'd probably want to put your receiver. So this one decides to be here. You might end up having to change this a bit depending on like how things actually fit. But it's always good practice to just estimate. There are two different ways in which you can do this where you can put down your N20 motors, like here has zip ties on either side or wherever they intend to be, and then solder after and putting the wires and determining like how much length you would need. I personally would like to do it before I put it in the robot. And if you do it that way, it's always a good practice to use more wire than you think you'll need, because it's easier to take away than it is to add. Would not recommend trying to solder two wires together in order to lengthen it. It's easier to just get a whole new wire. But this is the process of trial and error. So you probably will end up being too short or too long. And if that's the case, you'd rather be too long so that you're able to kind of fasten it and away from the rest. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to use this chassis to estimate what kind of length I would probably need for this. So for the first motor, you can kind of see in here, it's not that long. The negative side, and yes, this is red wire denoting the negative side. Sometimes that just happens. The color of the wire doesn't ultimately matter whenever you hook it up, but they're just good indicators so that you don't have to put too much thought into knowing which one's negative and which one's positive. But either way, so the negative wire here is hooked up to M1 negative, and it's a very short wire, just as well as the positive side of it. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll take this red wire, and this will be, I'm actually going to switch it up on this side because it's a bit much. No, I'm sorry. Because, if we have the choice, we would be able to put the red and black wire where they probably belong. So we're going to go ahead and get our wire strippers. Yours may look a little different, but it serves the same purpose. So you can see here's the stripping part here on top. Sorry for the glare. And then down here is where you can actually cut the wire. It's a good multi-tool. So I'm probably just going to do about this length, at least for my robot. Again, it'll probably be different for yours. We'll just put this back through here. Cut that. That didn't go all the way through. There you go. So a little bit longer than what you saw on the robot, but that's for a reason, because part of it will be soldered on, so part of it will be stripped. This may end up being too short, but I'll recut a new one if I have to. So a good rule of thumb, so that you don't strip too much wire, is to look at this portion right here to the right, and that's the part where it will actually be stripped. And this is these little teeth. It's going to hold down the wire as it pulls it apart, like so. Very easy. And then you're going to do it on the other side. About right there. Okay. So I forgot to turn my soldering iron on. Then take that a little bit to heat up. But we'll go ahead and find our positive. So just make sure there's no writing on this side. So the left side is my positive. Simple if we just kind of take it, put it closer. Glare. Okay, it's pretty simple. If you just kind of take it and put it through the hole, I'm gonna do it through the back side, kind of like that. Kind of like loop it a bit, bend it just so it stays in place. It'll be easier for soldering purposes. But as long as you make the connection, it's all that matters. Okay, so I'm gonna move this out the way. So you got your wire through there. We'll get our solder. I recommend using leaded solder. Trust me, it melts way faster. Maybe not as good as for the environment, but you live and you learn. But if you have solder free, that's still fine. With stuff like this, it's not going to really matter too much. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in this for you guys. Not very much space. I'll move these down here. Oh, it came apart. So with this, you just kind of have to, okay. I guess it's good to put the hook this way so it stays on. Just find a way, maybe you help your partner help you in holding it down so that it will be easy to make the connection. Let me move my light. There we go. Sorry, it's a little blurry. I'm also using this to look at. So, as Miss Cotton has, or your teacher has told you, just heat up the area with the metal and then use that as a way to solder on. I like to jiggle mine around just to make sure it's dispersed. Let me zoom out a little so it's not so blurry. And you can see, let me inspect it. Yep. You can see it's soldered on. Pretty easy. If it ends up not working, maybe you didn't put enough solder. You can always add more if you have to, if it doesn't make the connection. But I think this is on there pretty good. And then we're going to do the same for the other side. So I have some of this black wire. I'm going to cut about the same amount that I did for that one. There we go. And same process, just strip. Careful not to strip too much. It's a little hard to see because it's black, but there you go. Then the other side, pretty simple. And if you want to, don't be afraid to. If you're working in pairs too, or in groups too, don't be afraid to take turns with the assembly process because it'll be very exciting to actually get into the hands-on aspect of it. My wire's kind of stiff, so kind of sits in place. Maybe not, whatever. But find a way for it to keep in place. It'll be easier for when you start soldering this thing together. There you go. Let me zoom in. And same thing with this. And it's falling off. I'm going to do it sideways. It's probably easier. There you go. Have gravity help you. There you go. Now you have 2 ends soldered. And all you gotta do is the other motor. Remember to make sure you get to the side that doesn't have writing here. So this will be your positive and this will be your negative. And you denote that with red and black wire. Oh, also, I will say, for example, going back to our model, you can see that the wheel's all the way over here. So that's something to be cognizant of. It's shorter over here. You'll probably need to like map this out beforehand. Maybe like draw like an outline on a sheet of paper of your bot. You should have your chassis made by now. And then just like depending on where you want to put the receiver, make sure you have enough wire to go this way. So you can see that this has 2 black wires. So it's pretty long. So I would just do an exercise like that. And remember, always, I mean, not always, but don't be afraid to use more wire than you actually need. Because you can always just crumble it up and zip tie it away if it gets in the way, or just cut off anything you don't need. So in this case, say I didn't have my receiver here and I was like, I want to put it here. I'll just kind of like map it out from here to here. And then always do a little bit more than you need. So I'll do it to about right there. Also, it wouldn't be like a bad thing to do both wires before you solder both on, just so you have like the same length. Not a bad idea at all. So we're going to line them up. It's about right here. And we're going to strip. That did not work out. Oh, there's something wrong with this. Go. That may be a little short, but you can always take a bit more off. Okay, that was kind of long, but whatever. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Might be useful to have one person hold the motor down so it doesn't move like it is here. That did not solder on right. I think it just went on the node. So we're just gonna heat that back up, spread it around a little. It should be good. It's not pretty, but if it works, it works. Also, a little more solder never hurt anything. And make sure the connection's all the way on there. It may be a good idea to, like, if you have hooked like